the Top 25 Rundown. And here's your host, Alan West.
Welcome to the Top 25 Rundown, presented by the Sportscast. Today is November 2nd, 2022. If you haven't yet, please subscribe in all your channels: YouTube, Twitter, Twitch.tv, and Apple Podcasts. If you are on Apple Podcasts, please leave a rating and review. It'll help us out tremendously. You can listen to us on your smart speaker, play Sportscast. Visit us on thesportscast.net. Also follow us on Twitter at thesportscast1 and check out our app, the Sportscast, on the iOS App Store. My name is Alan West. That is Tyler Turner. How we doing, sir?
Good. Isn't that beginning like the intro like Super Nintendo?
Yeah.
Remember the Super Nintendo like
Mm-hmm.
the Mike Tyson's punch or Mike Tyson's punch? One of those like dee 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 dee. He's gonna punch him.
Yeah,
Yeah,
but Punch Out was NES, so.
Gotcha. Yeah, I'm doing good, man. Good week of college football. I think it was that was a pretty dominating effort by myself. By some teams. Hey, I'm in the lead now, 70-68. It's been a close year.
Yeah, hey, I mean, it's been good competition. It's not like it's been a runway the whole time, so.
Those unders.
Yep.
Gotta go under. Are you gonna go under this week? You're going under every game.
Some of these games could be some good unders, but
you don't know what games. You always let me pick them. So how do you know what games it is?
You don't think I don't look at it? You don't think I look at the schedule? Come on, man.
Well, 3 games aren't top 25 matchups. So.
Well, that's why I try to stay prepared, just because I know that you try to throw a few curveballs in there. The only question is which curveballs you're going to throw in there.
Okay. Anyways, let's talk about last week. Let's talk about the college football playoff. Screw that. What's up?
I mean, that top 25.
Yes. You said you were surprised. What were you surprised about? I want to hear what you're surprised about.
Well, as much as I wanted Ohio State, I figured they were going to be number 3. Because what I thought they were going to try and do, I figured they were going to be like how the polls have been the past few weeks, with Georgia being on top. And then I was expecting Tennessee to do well as also. So to see that they went, I mean, they deserve to be number 1. That's not even a question.
2 top 10 wins.
Exactly. And I mean, every time they've had to show up, they've not only showed up, they've dominated. And it hasn't even been close for some of the games. I mean, sure, the Alabama game was close, yes, but it's more just seeing what's going to happen. And for every team in the SEC, they've just kept winning. And, I mean, Ohio State, yes, we got our signature win against Penn State, which was nice, but I didn't expect them to be number 2. I thought they were going to be number 3. That's where I thought they were going to be. I mean, I figured that they were going to be definitely in the playoff. I mean, Clemson they were number 5, weren't they?
Clemson was 4.
Okay. I was a little bit surprised that they were 4.
Yeah, I was.
Just because I figured that either Michigan would be number 4 or
TCU.
Yeah, because that was why when I was looking at the standings, I was genuinely surprised by the few teams, and then also I know that Liberty broke into the top 25 for the regular poll. I was surprised they weren't even thought about for the playoff.
No, that didn't surprise me, because the playoff goes a lot with strength of schedule, strength of record, and quality wins. And they are pretty consistent with that. Mm-hmm. And Liberty, what quality win do they have?
BYU?
BYU's 4 and 5. They don't have one.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so the college football playoff has been kind of predictable in that, it was shocking last year that Cincinnati finally got into the playoff. because it's
True.
almost impossible. And I think it was because they beat Notre Dame, and Notre Dame ended up having a really good year and finishing in the top 5, and that was able to catapult Cincinnati. I don't if it stayed a 14 playoff, I don't think our Group of 5 team would make the college football playoff ever again. I think it just happened to be the one year Cincinnati happened to beat the one team that finished just number 5, literally. And that was enough in a year that there was enough chaos and other teams had multiple losses in their conference for them to sneak in at number 4. I don't think it'll ever happen again because the committee has always put such a priority and they put such an emphasis on quality wins. If you have quality wins and you win a Power 5 conference, you probably, and as long as you don't have multiple losses, you will probably get into the college football playoff. And I would say from the Wise Tennessee won, they had 2 top 10 wins. Wise Ohio State 2. Now I didn't get that. I agree with you on that because Georgia beat the number 18 by 46 points. Whereas Ohio State only beat their best victory, the number 15 team by 13 points. So yeah, I didn't get it. I thought Georgia would be second. I don't get the logic behind that one. Clemson had 3 top 25 wins. Syracuse, North Carolina State, and Wake Forest were all ranked. So that was more than TCU, and that was more than Alabama. Definitely more than Alabama. Alabama doesn't have any, and Alabama actually has a loss. I actually was surprised. Why is Alabama 6? Alan, Alan, to ask you a question. Alan, are you there? Alan, I can't hear you.
Is that better?
You turned your sound off, dude.
Yeah, no.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Yeah.
Okay. So I was like yelling, Alan. So why was Alabama number 6? That was kind of my question.
I think because of Tennessee.
They lost.
True, but they've only had one loss, and you know how they always have SEC bias. Let's be honest.
This year they straight up had SEC bias. LSU had 2 losses and were ranked 10th.
Mm-hmm.
Ole Miss doesn't have 1 top 25 win, and they've lost, and they were 11th. Above UCLA, who had a top 25 win.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it was pretty bad. Yeah, there was definitely bias this year. I did not get LSU at 10. I mean, that sets up, if LSU beats Alabama, runs the table, wins the West, and wins the SEC, they'll be in with 2 losses, which have never been a 2-loss team that's made the college football playoff.
I still don't see that happening, but I'm waiting to see how it's going to set up because it was definitely SEC biased, and it was just trying to figure out what was going to be next.
Yeah. What do you keep on looking at in your phone?
Pretending to see if I'm going to win this week.
You don't even know the games you've picked.
I know, that's why it's...
Okay, let's go. Are you there, Alan? You keep on turning your sound off, dude. Alan, I can't hear you. I can't hear you.
How about now?
What's happening?
What happened? My mic came unplugged.
Is that what's happened every single time?
Yeah, no, it's trying it out differently, so that's why I was trying to figure it out.
Okay. It's going to be a little bit of a walk you listen for a podcast.
I know. Because now I can't even hear you.
You can't hear me?
No, but that's okay.
You can't hear
We'll try it
me?
a different way. Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, you probably should try that beforehand.
I tried it a little bit. Apparently, it didn't work as well as I thought it was going to, so I'll get to have more fun testing it out this week.
You've
Hey,
you've ruined the podcast. You should be executed. Okay, anyways, go last week, Ohio State versus Penn State. Ohio State by 15.5. A pretty good victory by me. No, I know it was. I think we both got 2 points with it. What did you think of the game?
for me, I was at work, so I was having to watch the game cast, but I was actually able to turn the game on so I could watch a little bit of it. And as soon as I turned the game on, what should happen but Travion Henderson got the ball, went to the left side, and 41 yards later, he had scored the touchdown to take the lead. So after
Why
that,
hasn't he been more of a factor this year?
he's been having ankle issues, and for him, it's been more of a question of durability, just like for Mayan Williams. Those two have both been hurt a lot, and then the backup running backs actually lost two of them. They lost Evan Pryor and forget the other one they lost, but they actually had a guy who had been a running back at Arizona State. They pulled him from being the linebacker back to being a running back.
Oh yeah, who was that? Oh, he transferred.
Mhm.
He's running back now.
Yep, they pulled him back into the running back since they were starting to get a little thin back there. They just pulled him back last week.
Hold on, I gotta look that up. I remember him playing at Arizona State.
Mm-hmm.
Demonte Tremone, he was good.
Yep.
He was a why was he playing linebacker at?
What it was is when he came there, we kind of had a fruit of riches to where we had too many running backs. So he said, "That's fine. I'll switch back to linebacker," because he had played linebacker, I believe, in high school, and so since there was a need for it, he said, "Yeah, you know what? Let's switch back."
Was he playing at linebacker? Was he getting playing time?
Yeah, he was getting playing time, but now being running back, they gave him the opportunity for more time. He said, "Okay, let's do it." Since, I mean, you saw how he did.
How did he do?
I think he got a few carries at the end just because after Mayan Williams got hurt, I think he took over when Henderson needed a breather. Because Henderson, he had hurt his knee and his shoulder in the game. He should be fine for the next game, but that was a pretty definitely smash mouth football type of game last week.
It was a good game. I didn't get to watch it all either. I was also working. So, game number 2, Tennessee versus. Oh no. That's next week. Game number 2, Notre Dame versus Syracuse, was not a close game. Was a pretty dominating victory, and a pretty good job by me. I got all 3 points. I got the outright, the cover, and the over. I think you went. I'd have to look back to yours. I think you went with the under, but you got the outright, the cover. So, your thoughts?
Well, I knew Notre Dame was going to win this game.
You don't need to look back at it, man. That's true.
No. But no, what it was is when I looked at that game, we talked about it last week, even though Syracuse 2 games before had been undefeated, they hadn't really played anyone, and with the ACC being how it is, even with Notre Dame having kind of a rough year, Syracuse was not going to be able to measure up to their players. As much as I'd love to wish that they would, there was no chance that was going to happen.
The college football playoff should not bring Syracuse. Syracuse is not a top 25 team. That's ridiculous.
I was surprised they got 20th.
Yeah, that's some of the later rankings. It did definitely seem like the committee was like, I don't know, these teams all suck. Let's throw a little Oregon State on there, a little Tulane, a little Wake Forest, because the later rankings, I would have done Florida State. There's a lot of teams I would have done over who they picked. Game number 3, Oregon versus Cal. On the show, I actually said Oregon wasn't going to cover, and then the day before, I changed my mind and let it in. Actually, even though they barely covered, but did you see the game?
I was flipping back and forth in the game. I mean, it seemed like it was pretty decent, but Oregon kind of just had their way for the most part because Cal's defense really couldn't stop them a whole lot.
No, Oregon at the beginning, Oregon was a little bit. I wouldn't say flat. They didn't execute great. They turned the ball over, threw an interception in the red zone. They turned it over on down in the red zone. They also had a wide receiver running was scot-free, easy catch, dropped it. It would have been an easy touchdown, like a 50-yard touchdown. And so at the beginning, I'm like, man, they're really having a hangover from the UCLA game. I'm like, they're just not executing. But then eventually what ended up happening was they just ended up scoring when they're in the red zone and catching the long passes. And then they scored like 28 points in a row and got up 35-10. And then it was just, that was it. Like Cal may have scored a couple touchdowns on their backup defense. But no, after about the second quarter on, it was a blowout. So game number 3, Oklahoma State versus Kansas State. Holy woo-woo. And you've been just dying for Oklahoma State every week. You're like, they're the greatest.
I never said they were the greatest, but I like how Mike Leach's spread offense is, and then this week they just got taken to the woodshed.
Like who?
Actually, no, Mike Leach is at Mississippi State. This is Mike Gundy. Mike Gundy, yes. But even still, Mike Gundy, they both run the spread, and so I expected Mike Gundy was going to have his offense with Sanders is doing well, and Kansas State just took him straight to the woodshed. And
I think Kansas State is the best team in the Big 12. Kansas State wouldn't have lost to TCU the week before unless both their starting quarterback and backup quarterback get injured.
Mm-hmm.
If that doesn't happen, they were up by 18 points in the second quarter. I don't think they lose.
Do it again in the Big 12 championship game. That's going to be a heck of a game.
Yeah, we'll see. See if they can beat Texas this week. Florida versus Georgia. I got 3 points here. Got the over, the cover, and the outright. The reason why the spread was 22.5, and they win by 22. That's kind of a lame cover. But anyways, they covered. What did you think about the game?
Didn't watch any of it.
I saw highlights. Georgia got way ahead, wasn't close at all. And then I think they kind of were like, oh, this is easy, and kind of like, oh, the game's over. And then Florida comes flying back, got within 8 points, and then Georgia's like, screw this, scored quick 2 touchdowns and put the game away. So Georgia was unquestionably better. They did got caught napping. And that does happen. Makes sense. You know, you're going to play a top 5 matchup next week, right? And then all of a sudden you're up by 25 points. It does make sense for kids to be like, oh, it's over. Put in the backups. And sometimes the coaches do too. Oh, whatever, it's over. And then all of a sudden the game's not over. Mm-hmm. I've seen Oregon do that several times over the last few years. And I've seen it coming. I thought they were going to do that against BYU this year. What are you putting backups in for yet? And then, sometimes the momentum can switch, and all of a sudden you can see a team completely falling apart. So it's a dangerous game, but Florida's just not very good. So it wasn't that dangerous. Kentucky versus Tennessee. We both had Tennessee winning. You were more right on this game. I thought Kentucky was going to actually be competitive. I thought they were going to catch Tennessee looking ahead. Nope. Did you see it? What happened?
Tennessee was able to get the lead, hold the lead, and then when Kentucky tried to come back, Tennessee's defense just was able to stifle them almost every time.
Tennessee defense bringing home the victory. Week number 10. Game number 1. Anyways, sorry to go back. Edit that part. I won 14-11. I'm ahead 70-68. A couple weeks left, but I will admit I leaned on analytics. My 2 weeks that I beat you, I leaned heavily on analytics. I didn't see any accessible analytics this week, so I'm going off a hunch.
One thing before we get into this week's picks, I want to tell you that when I was looking up some college football information, Ohio State, for the 44 points they scored at Penn State, that's the most points ever scored at Beaver Stadium by an opponent in their history.
Really?
Yes. I was able to look that up because I've got a friend who's a big Penn State fan, and me and him were talking throughout the game. When he saw that, he was just like, that he was not happy.
There wasn't. So week 10, game number 1, Oregon State versus Washington. It's the only really good Pac-12 game this week. The over-under, and Oregon State's rated, so it's not good. It's Oregon State's rated number 24, and Washington's right outside. So this is a borderline top 25 matchup between 2-6 and 2 teams.
Okay.
It's at Washington. The over-under is 54.5. Washington is favored by 4.5. I'm a gentleman, so I allowed.
Oh, okay. You want to play it like that? Okay,
Okay. Who you go first? Who do you got in this?
I'm gonna pick Washington over and cover.
Okay. Can you give me an explanation?
I think Washington is going to show up in their home stadium, and they're going to give Oklahoma State a good game, but I think they're going to pull away and win.
Oregon State.
Yes, Oregon State.
Okay. So this one's interesting to me. Washington is good at home. They always have been when they're good, and they're playing good at home this year. The weather is supposed to be really bad. Washington has a terrible defense. Like, they have one of the worst defenses in the Pac-12, and therefore one of the worst defenses in the nation. Oregon State is not flashy. They're not the most talented team, but Jonathan Smith has them always very well coached. They always are at least efficient on both sides of the ball. They don't have a good passing game, but the weather's supposed to be bad. So therefore, a team that's efficient, can run the ball well, can play good defense, is very tempting to pick here, despite the fact it's at Washington. And who's rated? Who's rated between Oregon State and Washington?
You said Oregon State, right?
Right? And I think that's fair, because I think Oregon State actually is the team that is actually the better team. Like, if they play on a neutral field, I would definitely pick Oregon State. This one's tough for me. The bad weather has me leaning Oregon State. I think I'm going to take Oregon State with the upset here.
Okay.
I am going to go 28-27. So, I guess I cover. Now, I think a lower scoring game favors Oregon State. And I actually think 28-27 is kind of a lower. Even though that does slightly hit the over, I think it's a lower scoring game. And I go Oregon State with the victory over Washington and the over. Game number 2, Tennessee versus Georgia. The over-under is 66. Georgia by 8.5. I'll go first on this one. I think it's at Georgia. Tennessee has looked absolutely fantastic. But it's at Georgia. Georgia's a tough place to play. This is a top 3 matchup. I really don't see Tennessee winning this game. I don't see Tennessee beating Georgia at Georgia. I do think Tennessee covers. I do think Tennessee's a good team. And I do think it's like a 35-31 game, which actually hits right at 66. So if it hits right at the points, what do we do? We've never had that before. You always just go over under. I actually like doing the actual score. So what do you do if you hit the points?
That can be the tiebreaker. How about that?
Tiebreaker for what?
For the week.
Tiebreaker would mean we're tied.
Yeah, but see, if we pick whoever picks this game right, all 3 points, then you can technically say you won the week. What I'm gonna do?
What the heck are you talking about?
I'm picking.
No.
I think
I'm not done
over.
I'm not done with my pick. I'm not done with my pick. I'm not
Okay.
even done. So what? I'm really asking you for like how we do this, and you gave me some ridiculous like.
Of
It's
course.
a tie. No, it's not. Of course, it's dumb. Like, what the heck are you talking about? Like, what do you mean a tiebreaker for the week? So the other 6 games don't count? I'm not doing that. I'm not agreeing to that. No, what are you like? What do we do here? I'm being serious. So it's over under 66. We have it. I have it landing right at 66. Don't give me some bullshit. Well, what exactly would we do here? Because that's what I have. I think it's going to be a 35-31 victory, Georgia, which happens to land right at the points.
We're gonna have to look into that to figure that out.
That's a better response.
Yeah.
So was I misunderstanding you? Were you saying that we were only going to go after this off this?
Oh
game?
no.
Oh, that's what I thought you were saying.
No. What I was saying was we're gonna do every game.
Okay.
But say like at the end of it, like we look at the points and we see that we're tied, then we would use our pick from this game as the tiebreaker.
But what if it's not? What if it's not tied? So that
if it's not, then we don't have to worry about it. This is only still, like the extreme.
It would still. So that's where we do have to come to it because, even if you win by 3 points, then all of a sudden you're up by 1 overall. But I don't get the point for that. But I really think it's a 35-31 game. Let's think about it. Let's pray.
That's what I said. We'll figure it out. We'll have an answer by next week.
So, we have to have it before the game. We have to come up with some kind of conclusion before the game. So right now, I have the over/under being whatever, and I have Georgia winning outright, but I have Tennessee covering. You go.
I'm going to pick Tennessee for the upset. I'm going to say that they're going to keep on their streak, and they're going to win. I think it's going to be over, and I do think they're going to cover. So you said it was how many points for the cover?
Well, 8.5. If you have Tennessee winning, they're going to. If it's 8.5 Georgia, so if Tennessee wins, then they cover.
Yeah. Well, I would say I'm going to say it's going to be more like a 42-30. Tennessee.
No way they score that many points on Georgia. Like 31's even like stretching it. That's why I just don't. Yeah, that's why I'm having a hard time seeing Tennessee win this. If they score 42 points at Georgia, fine. If they score 42 points at Georgia, I will go. I'll give up the under. That's a loss. Over under.
Okay,
well,
we'll see what happens.
You're picking 42, so the tiebreaker will be if they score over 40, I give up the under. If they score under 40, then I get the under.
Okay.
Or over under, whatever. Because I'm having it right at the thing. There's no way. Kirby Smart's not going to give up 40. He did like last year against Alabama in the SEC title game, and that defense played terrible. But that was so unusual for Tennessee. Next game. For Tennessee, for Georgia. Liberty versus Arkansas. I don't know if you know I was going to do this one.
I had a
Over
feeling you were.
under 65. Arkansas by 13.5. It's at Arkansas. It's at Arkansas. Go ahead.
As much as I'd want to pick Liberty, I got to pick Arkansas because I think Arkansas having a home crowd. This isn't the same team that Brad Bielema coached. They actually can play. Whereas when Bielema was there, they were more of a liability. His record in the SEC was a joke. And so I think,
pretty good at Illinois.
yeah, well, Illinois, when he's in the Big Ten, he can play in the Big Ten. He can't coach in the SEC. But I think the Arkansas, what was the total points? It was 65.
65. I know you're going to go the over, so just spare us. And
I'm actually doing the under.
Oh, really?
I'm going to do the under for this game.
How about the cover? Arkansas by 13.5.
I think they will cover.
So you have Arkansas winning, covering, and the under.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I'm going to go the over. And I am going to have Arkansas winning, but I think it's 42-31. So therefore, Liberty covers. Liberty is a good offense.
That's true.
I think they'll score on Arkansas. I don't think Arkansas's defense is that good. They also have a lot of problems in the secondary. And Liberty, all the quarterbacks, doesn't matter who he puts in there, capacity has been able to throw the ball. And they can run. I think they'll score. I think they'll score a decent amount of points. I just think Arkansas is a little too talented. It's a little bit too much of a talent problem. Next game, Texas versus Kansas State. Over under 54.5. Texas by 2.5. Man, the metrics like Texas. The thing is Texas efficiency, when you look at advanced metrics and efficiency and a lot of stuff, Texas looks like they have a talented roster. They actually land in the top 15 in a lot of advanced metrics, SB plus, F plus, team efficiencies. But the problem is they're 5-3. They've lost 3 times.
Mm-hmm.
And Kansas State is legitimately a good team. But Texas does have a talented roster. And I think when they show up, they can beat anyone. I'm going to say they show up. And I'm going to say they beat Kansas State. And it's the over. I'm going to go with 34-27. So I have Texas covering. I have Texas winning. And I'm going to go with the over.
I'm going to pick Kansas State for the upset. I think that they're going to ride off their high that they had the last 2 weeks. And I think that they're going to – you said it was at Texas, right?
No, it's at Kansas State.
Okay, so it is at Manhattan. I think that they're going to use the crowd hyping them up. And they're going to – we're going to do the over. And I think that they will be able to pull it off.
So you have Kansas State. Okay, gotcha. Wow, this is going to be a make or break week because we're different this week.
Mm-hmm.
Alabama versus LSU. LSU. It is 56.5 over under Alabama by 13.5.
This one is going to be for me, this is the toughest game to pick for this week. Because
13.5 at LSU.
Yeah. I mean, as much as I think that this is going to be a mistake, I will pick Bama. I'll pick the over, and I'll say they'll cover. But if there was 1 week where I would reserve my right to change, this would be the game. Okay, I'm gonna put that on record right now.
Alabama has not played good on the road. They barely beat Texas. They lost to Tennessee. And LSU is playing really well. It's at night at LSU. That's not an easy place to play. And LSU's playing good. And Alabama's not playing good on the road. Did I say Alabama's not playing good on the road? I not only have LSU covering, I actually have LSU winning outright. 31-28. I do go with the over. So over, LSU wins outright, Alabama, and covers. I can see Alabama winning. I am going a little bit on a limb here, but I'm telling you what, that 13.5, that's too much. That's ridiculous. That's a ridiculous spread playing the number 10 team in the nation on the road. Like, that's ridiculous. When I saw that spread, I'm like, really? At LSU? I'm like, okay. I don't get that. So, next game, Clemson versus Notre Dame. 44.5. Wow, that's low. Clemson by 3.5. That's a close spread. It's at Notre Dame. Undefeated, number 4 ranked Clemson at Notre Dame. I don't like this for Clemson. They are coming off a bye, but Notre Dame's playing better. It's at Notre Dame. I think Notre Dame will be physical enough in the line of scrimmage to impact their defensive line. I'm going to go Notre Dame wins 27-21. So I'm going to go the over. I'm actually doing a lot of overs this week. Kind of scary. I'm going to do the over, and I think they force turnovers. I think Notre Dame wins. I think obviously they cover, and the over. Alan.
Well, as much as I'd love to disagree with you, I think you're right. I think Clemson's going to lose this game. And I think Notre Dame, there's going to be a lot of different turnovers. I think they're going to win. I think it's definitely going to be an over because there's no way it's going to be a low-scoring game for this match. The only question is how many turnovers and how many points are going to come off of defensive turnovers.
I guess because of turnovers. Now, I don't love either one of these offenses, and I think they both have decent defenses. So I do actually see, the more I think about it, I really do see that low over-under. I definitely would be surprised if there's a lot of points because I don't think either one of these offenses are great, while both the defenses are pretty good. So I would be surprised if it's a lot of points. Okay, last game of the week, and a game that I could care less about, but I'm staying consistent with top 25, and they left these two teams in the top 25. Wake Forest versus North Carolina State. Snore. Over under 54. Wake Forest by 4. The only thing I'll say is you do have a good offense versus a good defense and a bad offense versus a bad defense. So it makes it a little interesting. So Wake Forest at North Carolina State, over under 54. Wake Forest, despite being on the road, is a 4-point favorite. Who do you got?
See, I'm trying to think about picking Wake Forest, although last week Sam Hartman had one of the worst games of his career. I know, I think he threw 3 interceptions at least.
Yeah, they had like 6 turnovers.
Yeah, I know he threw at least 3 interceptions. I wasn't sure. I think it was either 3 or 5. Like he threw a lot of interceptions, and so I know that they can bounce back, but I think NC State's going to give them all they can handle. I think NC State's going to win this game.
Do they cover? Oh, they're the underdog. Never mind. Over under. You have over under 54.
I think they'll hit the over.
I'm going to disagree with you. Wake Forest, North Carolina State does not have an offense without Devin Leary. I just don't think they're going to score enough points. I'm going to go 31-21. I'm going to go the under. And I have Wake Forest winning and covering. So this week, holy cow.
Yeah.
This is going to move more than, okay, so +3 there. Nothing there. Alabama, it's plus, I think it was +5. And then here, I'm gonna have to go through, man. It's like we're almost totally on the opposite side. This is gonna be man, and I didn't go off analytics. I'm wondering what the analytics said. See if I can find something.
That's fine. While you do that, since we already went over the game's picks, what do you think about what happened in that Michigan State game last week? Not only,
I definitely thought there should have been more fighting.
I know that Michigan won. Yeah, they're definitely more fighting, but you already got 8 players suspended for the 2 that got beat up for Michigan.
They should have gotten awards.
Yeah, okay. But the problem is, do you think that the players who got suspended so far, should they have been kicked off the team yet, or do you think that they're going to get kicked off the team after the investigations are done?
I mean, it did look pretty bad. Pretty inappropriate. Yeah, and then no one stepped in. Yeah, they definitely should be suspended for the year. I don't know. They possibly could get criminally charged. It was bad. That was bad, I would say.
Well, you know
Terrible
that.
one for Michigan State.
Well,
Man,
that
man,
that's
Bell
the
Tucker's had
third fight in the Michigan Stadium tunnels at the Big House. It's the third fight this year.
Oh, I know they had the one at Penn State. What was the other one?
I don't remember off the top of my head. I know that they were talking about it though.
They have to stop having teams go in together. That's just bad. They have to have one team go in, and then they have security clear, and then the next team goes in.
That's what they need to do, but you know that they're not going to do that. I mean, if
they might now. They might now.
Let's hope so. I mean, in some ways, they're lucky that the rivalry game this year is at Ohio State, because if that happened there, it'd be a lot different, because you know that if they were trying to do something like that, that would not go. No, it would not go well at all. So
yeah, Ohio State will be definitely not happy after they get their butt kicked on the home field. I just that is. Wait, did I say that out loud?
You always do, but the funny thing is, a lot of times when you say stuff like that, you turn out to be incorrect. So we'll see what happens.
Oh, what? Who's winning this year?
By 2 points, finally. How many weeks did it take you to catch up?
It doesn't matter. I'm winning. So you're saying you're bad? So you're saying you're bad? So you're saying you're bad?
I'm saying it took you a long time to catch up.
It doesn't matter. I'm ahead. What does that mean? There's a winner and loser. Right now, I'm winning. You're losing.
Oh, darn. Whatever will I do?
It's clearly. I'm trying to find some analytics to see what exactly, because let's see.
All right, well, while you're looking at that, I was doing some research because we're getting ready to come into basketball season, and so I saw today that the Kansas head coach, Bill Self, and his top assistant, they both got suspended for 4 games because of that NCAA investigation that they've been working on for the last 3 years. Back since, actually, I guess now about almost 5 years, back in 2017. So they had done some self-imposed sanctions where they couldn't do recruiting. They've been removing some scholarships. They weren't allowed to go on recruiting trips for 4 months. And so now they've been suspended for the first 4 games of the year. The reason I think they're trying to do this is because if the NCAA does rule on it, I think they're trying to make sure that once basketball season starts and it does get to tournament time, they want to try to defend their title. What do you think about that? Sound about right?
Sounds about right. You got it all down pat. You know what? I hate this. Most weeks they come out. Some weeks the advanced analytics guys come out really late, like Thursday and Friday. I'm curious. I'm really interested because we're completely on the other side of the
spectrum,
and I'm trying to see what. I mean, what would shock me? So I look at these games. Oregon State versus Washington. Like, I picked Oregon State. I don't think you're on the wrong side of Washington. You're literally going with the favorite team and the home team. Tennessee versus Georgia. I do think you're being a little risky there. I could see the under, but Georgia's is the defending national champion. They've lost one time in 2 years. When was the last time they lost to Georgia? When was the last time they lost to Georgia?
It's a good question.
I think it's been several years. maybe 2019. I think they got upset by South Carolina at the beginning of 2019. So Georgia has one of the longer home winning streaks, and it's a top 3 game. You know it's going to be crazy there.
Mhm.
So yeah, I feel pretty good being with Georgia. I mean, Tennessee's playing well, but I mean, Liberty versus Arkansas. Well, we both take Arkansas to win. You're saying they cover. I'm saying they don't. I can see Arkansas covering. But I can also see Liberty like covering the spread and getting it close enough. I think we both would be kind of surprised if Liberty wins, right? I just think playing the SEC team on the road is tough. If Liberty wins, I mean, do you think Auburn offers Hugh Freeze a lifetime contract to go there?
Well, I mean, he would be the candidate who they would want to get. But remember, he just signed that extension to 2030 at Liberty, so you got to picture they have a massive buyout to keep him there.
He does. I mean, yeah. I mean, I don't think that would stop him. My thing is Hugh Freeze is a Christian man, and he does like what Liberty stands for. And they gave him a second chance after what went down at Ole Miss.
Mm-hmm.
I do think he was humbled, and I think he's someone that actually really likes being at Liberty. So I'm not totally convinced he ever wants to leave. Because he went to the SEC. I mean, he was good. He beat Saban twice. He led them to 2 New Year's Six Bowls, and then it all came crumbling down because of the off-field stuff. Yep. And he might have just stepped in away and just you know what? I don't really, maybe didn't even want to really coach that much anymore. And then Liberty came open, a Christian school, and he's like, this is the only job I'd take. That's my only thought. And if he doesn't take Auburn, because why would Auburn hire Hugh Freeze? I know what went down, but Hugh Freeze is a freaking great coach.
Mm-hmm.
He beat Saban twice on his home field once. I mean, this guy's a really good coach. So, and look what he does at Liberty. So that's wrong. Okay, Texas versus Kansas State. I mean, yeah, I don't think you're necessarily on the wrong side. I just think finally Texas comes through with all this talent. And Kansas State has, well, the Oklahoma State game wasn't that tough. I don't feel great about this one. Because Kansas, look at Texas. But Texas, if you look at baseline talent and you look at advanced analytics, this is a team that should be 7-1.
That's true.
Should have beaten Alabama. Should have won the game against Texas Tech.
Mm-hmm.
Clemson versus Notre Dame were both on the same side, which is actually surprising. We actually went against the favorite. Wake Forest versus NC State. My only question is, have you seen them play with Devin Leary at quarterback?
Wasn't he the quarterback that started against Clemson?
Yeah, he's very good, but he's injured. So without him, they just are not good. They're really bad offensively. So I kind of feel good that Wake Forest wins that one. So,
what I'll do is I'll remind you that you had said basically the same thing when Liberty played BYU. So I'm going to see if lightning strikes twice.
What did I say?
Because when you said that Brewer or the other quarterback, if they weren't going to play, you didn't think that Liberty was going to beat BYU.
Did I stay with my pick?
At the end, you finally did, but I was the only one who was willing to say it regardless.
Okay, did I change my pick?
I mean, we'll see what happens, but I still think...
I don't know. I don't think that's the best example, because if I really would have thought that, wouldn't I have changed my pick?
Well, I mean, he did thought about it, but you're a Liberty homer, too, though. You got to remember, you're a Liberty homer since it's a school that gave you a chance when you got to play football in college. I mean, come on, man.
I still didn't change it. If I would have thought they would lose, I still would want to win. I was like, no, they're going to win this game. I said, even with this backup, I was surprised he played so well, and I was surprised he won by 27. Yes. But in the end, the reason why I didn't change, I'm like, no, this is like their Super Bowl. I just wasn't on camera to say this to you. But if I really would have changed, did I change the Oregon game?
You changed to the over, yes.
I will. Sometimes I will. And there's another game I did early in the year. I forgot what it was. And I think I ended up losing on it, actually. There's a couple times if I sit on stuff, I'll change. I was like, no, I think Liberty wins.
Yep, we keep it. We keep track of it. That's why I make sure that when you
I
send me messages, I read them and we keep up with it. So
Well, you like holding me to stuff that I end up not doing, so kind of shady of you, Alan.
really, you were the one that waited till 5 weeks in to tell me what website you use for analytics, sir. Come on now.
Okay. For analytics, no, I didn't. I said I used Bet Online for the over and unders.
True, but the thing was, I was using.
That's not what I used. That's not what I used for
You were
analytics.
using Bet One. You were using Bet One. You had said,
Bet
and
Online.
so okay. Well, for me, I had been using ESPN. That was why partially my scores were coming up different than yours. So
Okay, first of all, you didn't ask me. That's your fault. Second of all, the scores are not really that much different. You sound a little like you're copping out here, and probably worked in your favor. You probably would have done worse because you did Bet Online last week and you lost by more. You were ahead going into last week and now you're behind. So
okay.
you're using some weird logic right now. Possibly tired, maybe under the influence, maybe both. I
Really?
don't know. Well, I don't know because your one comment about Liberty didn't make sense because I didn't change. So I was like, okay, what's this argument? And I stayed with it, so it wasn't relevant. And then this one, you're like, well, I went with. Well, the time you did go with the website, you lost the second worst you've ever lost. So I'm like, okay, so maybe you should go back to going off your ESPN because maybe you'll actually win since you've been losing pretty frequently recently.
Okay, Mr. 2 Points. Okay, sir. Okay.
But this week it's going to be, I'm either going to be way ahead or you're going to come back and be in the lead. I don't know. I wouldn't say I feel unbelievably confident about some of my picks. So that's what worries me. That's why I want to look at analytics. It might change my mind. I might change my mind in a couple of days. Because I'm not looking at any analytics and I have liked leaning on that a little bit more. And I'm like, why? And I'm picking, let's see how many upsets. One, well, that's just the under. 2, 3. I'm picking 3 upsets.
Mm-hmm.
You're picking 1 upset. I'm just picking if you picked up 2 upset, 3 upset. You're actually picking 4. So you're going more upsets. Yeah, so you're going actually more upsets than me. So my pick by that, but I don't know. There's some weird. It's the big. There's that LSU. You really feel good about that LSU Alabama line?
I mean, that's
a lot of points. I mean, that's a huge spread at LSU. Like, I think even by ranking Alabama, am I confused? Alabama doesn't look that good. I know you give teams benefit of the doubt from the past. Obviously, that's what happens. You're giving Nick Saban Alabama a pass because I'm not seeing them. If they looked great, I'd be like, okay, whatever. They lost 1 game. They look amazing, but they could have lost A&M, should have lost Texas, and those are not great teams. A&M sucks. Texas is barely in the top 25 with 3 losses. I'm not. And Tennessee was way ahead in that game. Alabama did come back, but Tennessee was ahead for most of that game. So, I'm not seeing why are they that big a favorite at LSU.
I don't think people believe that Chip Kelly's legit down there, even though they've been on the winning streak.
I wouldn't think Chip Kelly's legit there either. He doesn't coach LSU. That right there, that would be problematic because Chip Kelly doesn't coach LSU.
Brian Kelly. All right, sir. All right, sir. Hey, I got the for each coach I messed up. I either got their first name right or their last name right, sir.
You made this is like your Oklahoma State calling Oregon State. Pretty soon it's gonna be Nick Saban's gonna really stomp it out in the desert this weekend for Arizona State. Hey, Mike Gundy. You call Mike Leach. Uh,
I'm glad you're getting the humor, sir.
you're probably missing the material. What was it? Where were we at? Where were we at? Brian Kelly. The Brian Kelly stuff. Don't get it. What? Let's see. At Notre Dame, he led them to the playoff twice. He led them to the national championship. How's Notre Dame done it every other year, 20 years before him and or immediately after him? This is their worst year in like years this year. So Brian Kelly being the random people that say Brian Kelly's not that good a coach, I would like to see where that lines up. He won multiple Division II titles, went to Cincinnati, led them to undefeated season, and led them to a couple of years Six Bowls. They barely were outside the BCS. Went to Notre Dame and led them to a national title game and two college football playoffs. Where's Brian Kelly not been a good coach in his life?
Well, he's been a good coach, but one question: how many national titles has he won?
He's coaching Notre Dame during a period you have Alabama, Georgia, Ohio State, some of the most talented teams in recent memory in college football. His
He's
teams
the
at Notre
first
Dame,
Notre Dame coach like that who didn't win a national title, who was the all-time win leader.
the Notre Dame teams were much closer in talent to their opposition than the Brian Kelly teams. Brian Kelly's teams always were in the 10-15 range in the team talent composite, going against top 3 level talent.
I mean,
that's a weird reason to not say he's a bad coach.
True, but I mean that's why for him at Notre Dame, they had expectations for him to do like the other coaches who had the all-time wins to get a national championship. Unfortunately, that didn't happen, and so that's why for him, he even admitted it in an interview. He said, "Look, I'm the first coach that's been able to have the all-time wins, but I haven't brought a national title to it. So that's why, for me, I do realize everyone's saying something about that."
Brian Kelly would have won a national title back in Lou Holtz's day.
Yeah, I believe that.
It was just it's just a period where you have these basically superpowers that just had unbelievable talent. I mean, and that started in the 90s with the Miami teams, and then the Nebraska teams, and then the Miami teams again, then the USC teams, where you just had these rosters that were so much better than everyone else. And then Alabama has been on steroids for 12 years. Where these teams have when you break down the blue chip players in the team, it's like few teams have so many. Like that's what would be cool about Tennessee winning it this year, because they don't have that roster.
Mm-hmm.
That would be the first time a team in recent memory does not have that blue chip roster and wins a national title. That's why, I mean, I'm an Oregon fan. I want Oregon to win it, but if it's not Oregon, I want Tennessee to win it. And it's kind of hard because I'm probably going to root for Georgia because Tennessee winning and Georgia losing hurts Oregon any chance of the playoff. But a part of me kind of wants Tennessee to win the national title, because that would be the first team in I'm trying to think that talent wise, if you look at the baseline roster talent, would be inferior to the people they're beating. I don't know. The first team since Notre Dame. No, that's not a good one. I don't know. It hasn't happened in years. Because if you look at all the teams that have won, even since maybe Michigan when they shared with Nebraska in '97, that was a roster that probably was not at Nebraska's level, and I don't think they would have beaten Nebraska if they wouldn't have had. That's the problem. But they had a great player in Charles Woodson, and they had a good season. Other than that, maybe Tennessee in 1999
with T. Martin as a quarterback.
Yeah, but that was a pretty good team.
Yeah, because it was the year right after Peyton Manning had left too. I mean,
they had some really good players. Yeah. When was the last team that you thought that the people, or maybe don't keep track of Ross, where you thought the talent on the roster should not have won that national title? How about Georgia Tech in 1992?
That's a pretty good one. You know that if, say, Heupel would win at Tennessee, that would be the second national championship he's won.
Yeah, he won with
Because,
Oklahoma.
yes,
And even that Oklahoma team, yeah, they
yeah,
might not. That's actually maybe, yeah.
yeah, that one,
They,
because that was 13-7, I believe, for that one.
they beat Florida State, right?
Yep.
And that team probably did not have. They were not even rated in the top 25 at the beginning of the season.
I mean, hypothetically, you
Yeah,
could even say the Ohio State team of 2002, just with how Miami was that game. Sure, we had some great players, but
yeah,
compared to how that Miami team still was stacked up after the year before.
yeah. In relation, like that Ohio State team had enough talent to definitely play for the national title, but to
Hmm.
beat Miami, yeah,
I mean,
yeah,
that's one of the
yeah,
better comparisons I can give you, honestly.
yeah.
So.
Yeah. Actually, you thought of two good ones: Oklahoma and Ohio State. Because every other team that I think of, the USC teams were just ridiculous.
Hmm.
So you can't say any of them. The Florida teams were crazy talented.
Hmm.
You can't say any of the Alabamas. You can't say any of the Clemsons. Now Clemson maybe a little bit. Then you have Heisman Trophy quarterbacks, but then that you could say that equaled it with Hooker this year. Yeah, I would honestly say you're probably right. Probably Oklahoma and Ohio State in the early 2000s is probably the best example. Yeah.
Just because, I mean, the other one you could do is Nebraska when they played Miami, because Eric Crouch was the starting quarterback, and other than him,
But they didn't
Nebraska
win.
was
No, I'm
over.
saying win. No, I'm talking about winning.
Okay.
Yeah. No, I'm talking about
Well,
winning it.
we can definitely do a little more research into this for next week too. So we'll
I
see
thought
what.
you were going to say the Nebraska teams in the 90s. I'm like,
No,
those teams were remarkable.
not a chance,
Those
not
teams,
a chance.
their whole front seven was
Oh
NFL
yeah,
guys. I'm like, no,
no,
you're
there's
talking
no way.
about you're talking about the one that got their butt kicked by Miami. Yes,
Yeah,
that's
no.
what. No, that was Notre Dame. That Nebraska team was the Notre Dame teams.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, no. For those teams when Oswald was a coach, there's no way I would say
I think your best example is Ohio State. I really do, because that Miami team was loaded, coming after the national title. A ton of NFL guys, and Ohio State beat them. I really think that's the best one. That would be comparable to Tennessee winning it, and Oklahoma is probably second. But other than that, over the last like 30 some years, the best teams have always just dominated. It's been and when they've gone head to head, it's been just like Miami blew out Nebraska, right? USC blew out that Oklahoma team. LSU blew out Oklahoma. Alabama's blown out. Notre Dame blown out. Whoever else they played. I mean, and it's for the most part, it's gone pretty par for the course. Other than, Auburn was a team that did not probably have the talent to win the national title, but they were playing Oregon, and Oregon didn't either. Those were two kind of not elite teams playing for the national title. And actually, Auburn had the better people than Oregon. So Auburn probably was the least talented team in recent memory to win the national title outside of that Ohio State team, but they were playing another team that equaled that less than ideal talent. In the last decade, it just has been the same old, same old. The teams that have won for the most part just have really, really good people. And that's what Brian Kelly's run against. Just better teams. There is not one team he has lost to in the playoffs for the national title that wasn't just playing simple better than his team.
True. That, and since we're going down that road a little bit, how about you were finally right about Brian Harsin getting fired and now Cadillac Williams being the interim head coach. So we'll see how that goes for them now.
Yeah.
Fingers are crossed, but
bye, Brian.
Well, I think that about wraps up for this week. Anything else you can think of?
See who gets the W.
Yeah, it's going to be a good one, and I wish you good luck on that, sir, and we will see how that goes. So,
All right, you have a good one, man. Look forward to it.
how would we get a hold of you on outside of this?
At TurnerCast on Twitter.
All right. For me, it's at AlanWest.46 on Instagram or AlanFWest on Twitter. You can follow us on Twitter at the Sportscast1 and visit our website sportscast.net. Make sure to check out our show schedules throughout the week. This is Alan West. That is Tyler Turner. Have a good one.
Thank you.